If you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am The Wiz! And I'm here to review the 2016 comedy adventure Captain Fantastic, starring Viggo Mortensen, George McKay, Catherine Hahn, Stephen Zahn, and Frank Langella, directed by Matt Ross. Captain Fantastic is an interesting mix of a few different types of genre. It's a mix of a fish-out-of-water movie and a road trip movie, which I think does work well as the movie goes forward. But that's not really the key aspect of this movie. This movie is about Ben Cash, who is played by Viggo Mortensen, and his family of, I would say, nicely misfits. Ben, his wife Leslie, and his 6 kids have lived out in the wilderness in Washington State for decades. That's how they've raised their kids. They've raised their kids outside of society. But when the wife commits suicide, he is drawn to go back to where she died in order to take her body and give her a proper funeral. The film for the first half showcases the family life in a very romanticized way. The kids are very intelligent, they are very self-sufficient, the family is really close, especially with the father, and Ben is looked upon as a very loving, caring, if not very exacting father figure, and the kids idolize him because of it. And even if you don't agree with the type of things that he is doing, it's romanticized enough that you kind of believe that he is doing the right thing and that he's doing what's best for the kids. And you believe that he has got their best intentions in mind when it comes to raising them. When the second half comes up, that starts to form cracks and starts to fall apart a little bit, because as the second half starts going, Ben and the kids start to interact with the outside world that they've shunned throughout all their lives. This is where a lot of the drama starts to come about. There's some talk about the mom and how they miss her and everything, but really the main drama goes into how the kids react to the outside world that they're just not familiar with. And I think this is where a lot of the character development of Ben really comes along. This is about a family, but really this film is about Ben. And it's about how Ben raised his kids, how he raised his family. Well, in the first half, you would think, wow, he raised them really well. They're very smart. They're very self-sufficient. But when they get into the second part of the film and they start interacting with the outside world, you get to see where the ideology and the way that he thought about raising his kids starts to fall apart. And it's because that they just don't know how to interact with society. They do a lot of odd things. They talk very openly about things that are very taboo in today's society. And on top of that, and I think in one of the most painful scenes in the film, you have the older boy who's starting to burgeon with his sexuality and starts to do some very not great things in this movie. Not terrible, but just like, oh, that's painfully cringe. The film tells a story of the importance of a multi-intelligent society. Now, multi-intelligence is a theory. I think a lot of people do believe in this, but it's still basically a theory. And basically, there are numerous types of intelligences. There's the book-smart intelligence. There is social intelligence, the ability to have people like you and have people follow you. There's also emotional intelligence. There's a bunch of other intelligence that I can't list off on the top of my head here. But it's clear that the kids are overly intelligent in one aspect, but woefully unintelligent in others. And the film really shows that despite what Ben's intentions were, that maybe it was not a good idea for what he did, especially when eventually the kids will have to leave. And the film does a very good job of showing that in type of importance, and how even though Ben had the best intentions, in the end, he kind of hurt his own kids. And in certain aspects, too, he hurt his wife. And the film does a really good job showing all sides of it. Ben is a good guy, but what you're led to believe is that what he's doing is good, but towards the end, you realize that it was not good at all, what he did. That is, unless you stop 20 minutes before the end, because the film, I think, does a great job of showcasing all that and basically how irresponsible Ben was in certain aspects. You can understand where he's coming from, but he did hurt his kids in the end with the way he raised them and had a rigid belief system as to what he was doing. But in the last 20 minutes, the film cops out. And I'm not going to spoil exactly what they did, but the thing that was going on throughout the entire film and showcasing what Ben did and how it hurt his kids, it kind of washes it all away, and I think it makes the film not work as well as it did in the other 100 minutes in the film. And to me, I think that was not a good move. It turned what I thought was a great movie into a good movie. But honestly, when I ended the film, I was kind of disappointed at the way it ended. even with that 20 minutes, I still think it's a good movie that I think people should see. I just think that the last 20 minutes of the film just did a disservice to the rest of it. Is it a bad film? No, it's not. In fact, I am going to recommend Captain Fantastic. I think it is a very good movie, and I think it actually has a very good performance by Viggo Mortensen, who got nominated for an Academy Award for this role, and I believe that it was earned in this one. But I really do feel that the way they ended this film is in stark contrast to what the rest of the film was trying to portray and try to do in this. I don't think it was trying to villainize Ben, but it showed the reality of even his best intentions ended up harming his kids in a very specific way. And he could have prepared them for the future in some sort of way, but instead wanted to keep them in that nest, even though he should have known that it was not possible. So overall, I'm going to recommend Captain Fantastic. I think it's a good movie. Check it out on Max if you have not seen it. Now, normally I would go into what the next movies are, but I want to do the footnotes right now because I'm going to spoil the movie in the footnotes. So if you do not want to get spoiled, then I would suggest you stop right now and go into the next section to let you know what are the next movies coming out next. So here are the footnotes for Captain Fantastic. First off, these are questions I have. First off, did Ben love his family? I think yes, absolutely he loved his family. I think and especially he loved his wife. He just thought he was doing the right thing for everybody. For the most part, I think a lot of what he was doing was great. Teaching his kids to be self-sufficient, teaching his kids how to cook, how to hunt, and to be very intelligent and to think for themselves. Well, maybe not the last part. I think in that end, I think Ben definitely loved his family. Here's the second question. Is Ben a good father? That's a tough question. That really is. I think you can look at the first half of the film and go, absolutely he is. Look at his kids. Look how smart they are. Look how close-knitted and how they are in this film. But then you have to look at the second half of the film and go, oh, he did not prepare them for this. And that's a big problem. And unfortunately, yeah, that's a big thing in this. I think this is kind of an unfair question, even though I wrote it myself, because what is a good father to some might be different than others. I honestly think that he did them a disservice, but in no way do I think he was abusive to them. I don't think that he was a bad father to them. I think he was a very good father. They obviously loved him. They obviously cared about him, and because they knew that he cared about them too. But also, Ben made some critical mistakes, and I think he lacked the maturity that I think a father would need. Here's the thing about society, and if you have bad things about it. You know you want to shield your kids from those things, but you know also you can't. So preparing them to be exposed to those things is probably the best thing you can do, and Ben didn't do that. I think he is a good father, but I think he made some critical mistakes, which we all do as a parent. And my third question, is it Ben's fault his wife died? Yes. I think, yes, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And I think Ben even admits this towards the end of the film. Not in an overt way, but in flashbacks or in sequences where he's talking to his wife's ghost. He even says, I should have gotten you help sooner. Yeah, like he knew that something was wrong with his wife. He still knew that she had bouts of mania and had severe depression and bipolar issues. He should have known that she needed more help, and I think he didn't do that. But again, is he evil for that? No. He just did the best he thought he could. But in all honesty, I think he also knew towards the end of the film that the best thing for her was to get help, and he didn't do that. Is it Ben's fault? I would say yes, it is. But again, that's the hard thing about stuff like this. Is it really the person's fault? And do you really want to dog on them that much? Because in the end, they're human. There's really nothing more you could do if the mother wouldn't do it herself. So I think in a sense it is his fault that his wife died, but on the other hand, would you excoriate him for it? No. He did the best that he thought he could and just made a critical mistake on the end. Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to. Thank you for listening to this review. If you want to know what we're reviewing in the next couple of days, you can look on the screen right now to see what's coming up next. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and leave a like on this video. If you want to discuss your opinion on the film or the review itself, please leave a comment. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for listening. I will talk to you next time.